Okay, so picture this. You step into this old abandoned building. It's dead silent. But then that silence breaks. You hear whispers, but they're coming from a radio that's switched off. Hallways start glowing red. And there's this thing standing exactly where you were just standing.
Yeah, and this isn't just, some campfire story we're talking about today. We're looking at some really unsettling source material here.
Seriously chilling stuff. It comes from these excerpts. They call it the breathing hospital of room 6B.
Right, and it tracks this one guy's experience. 2 weeks he spent in a place that, well, it just wouldn't stay dead.
And that place is St. Elora Hospital. It got shut down, back in 1997. Not just because it was old, though.
No, there was fire at East Wing. It wasn't huge, they contained it, but afterwards, several patients and I think 3 nurses, they just disappeared.
Vanished.
Yeah.
And they never found the body, so the hospital was just abandoned, left to rot.
Pretty much. Until this guy, Darren Pierce, shows up. The source mentions he's a nighttime security contractor, but he's also an amateur paranormal investigator.
Ah, okay. So he gets hired for what sounds like a pretty straightforward gig, right?
Totally. Guard the empty grounds for 2 weeks. City's getting ready to tear it down. Simple.
Simple, yeah. Place has no power, no running water, just him and, well, whatever's lurking in the dust.
And he brings his basic kit, flashlight, a camping chair. But crucially, he also brings an EVP recorder.
Right, electronic voice phenomenon, trying to catch sounds you can't normally hear.
Exactly. So our mission here in this deep dive is basically to follow Darren's journey through those 2 weeks, using these sources, pull out the key moments, what the text suggests about what this hospital actually is.
Okay, so we'll see how it goes from quiet and creepy to something else entirely, night by night. Let's get into it.
So the first 3 nights, the source says they were quiet, really quiet.
Half a quiet maybe.
That's what the text suggests. No homeless people sheltering there, no stray animals, not even rats scrabbling around, which you totally expect.
Yeah, that is weird for an old derelict building. What about the security cameras he had?
They flickered sometimes, showed static, but nothing major seemed wrong with them. Seemed normal enough initially.
Okay, so it's this weird, unnatural stillness for 3 nights.
Exactly. It kind of sets the stage, Builds the tension. Then night 4 hits, and everything changes.
This is the turning point.
Big time. Just after 2:3 in the morning, his radio hisses.
The one that was off.
The one that was definitely off. And this voice comes through it, described as hollow, whispery.
And it says?
Room 6B. Just that.
Okay, creepy. And the radio was dead.
Stone dead. He immediately turns it on, checks it, no signal, nothing. This wasn't some stray broadcast bleeding through.
Wow. Okay. And then what?
Almost right after that, one of the security cameras cuts out, the one pointing down the south wing hallway. That was the old surgical ward.
And when it comes back on?
The monitor shows that same hallway, but it's just drenched in this intense red light.
But there were no lights there, no power, no windows even.
Absolutely none. The source makes a big point of that. No possible source for this light.
So the hospital itself is doing this?
That's what the source implies. It's manipulating things. Starting with perception, tech. Darren, though, he's trying to rationalize it, thinks maybe it's a wiring problem somehow.
Right, you'd try to find a normal explanation, so he goes to check it out.
Yeah. Grabs his flashlight, his gear, heads towards the south wing.
And when he gets there?
The source says the air changes the second he steps into that corridor. It gets warmer, damp, feels like breath is the description used.
Like breathing on him.
Yeah, and then poof, his flashlight flickers and just dies. Plunges it into darkness, except
for the red light.
Exactly. The hallway ahead is glowing red, just like on the monitor, but it's not coming from bulbs. The source says the walls themselves seem to bleed red light, pulsing like veins.
Oh, that's vivid. Pulsing walls.
And the floor tiles under his feet, they looked wet, shimmering, like something had just coated them.
Okay, I'd be backing away slowly at this point.
He does, and as he's backing up, he hears it again. Room 6B.
Oh no. Where from this time?
The source says it was right beside his ear, like someone whispered it right there.
No one was there.
He spins around, nothing, just empty, pulsing red hallway.
And then?
Don't tell me.
Then he hears footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. And they're making this squelching sound on the wet tiles.
Squelching, oh man. Coming towards him.
Seems like it. That's when he bolts, runs straight back to the security office, slams the door, locks it.
Smart move. Does he look at the monitors?
He does. And what he sees chills him to the bone.
What? What's on the screen?
The source calls her the red nurse. standing in the south wing hallway, exactly where he had just been moments before.
A nurse in red scrubs.
Blood red scrubs.
Yeah,
But the description, it says she had no face. Just a blank, smooth smear of skin where her eyes and mouth should be.
Oh, God. That's terrifying. A faceless nurse in the red hall.
Yeah. A major moment in the source material, this visual confirmation of something, and then...
Let me guess. The monitors go dark.
All of them. Every single feed cuts out simultaneously. Black screens. So he's trapped in the office, in the dark, knowing that was just outside.
Pretty much. The source says he spent the rest of the night with his back jammed against the door, holding a knife. Just waiting for sunrise. Terrified.
I would be too. What happened when morning came?
Everything seemed normal again. Lights came back on, monitors were working, showing empty hallways, no red light, no nurse. Like, it never happened.
Except he knew it did.
Right. And there was proof. The source adds this one last detail from night 4. He checked his EVP recorder.
The one he had running. Did it pick anything up?
It had a new file on it, 7 minutes long, mostly just static, but right at the end,
Yeah.
faint voice, whispering, and it said, "Don't look at the beds. Don't look under the beds."
Wow. Okay, so the recorder caught something specific. A warning.
Undeniable audio evidence, according to the source, captured when he wasn't even there to hear it.
So after that night, faceless nurses, whispering voices on dead radios, warnings on recorders. He quit, right? Please tell me he quit.
You'd think so. The source actually points that out logically. He should have walked away, but he didn't.
Why not? Was it the paranormal investigator side of him?
Maybe. Curiosity. Maybe he felt compelled. The source doesn't specify his exact motive, just that he came back for night 5, and that's when things escalate. A lot.
How so? What happens next?
Well, that red hallway, it wasn't just in the south wing anymore. The source says it started appearing randomly.
Appearing where?
Different places. End of the maternity ward corridor 1 minute, down by radiology the next. Always seemed to be one hallway ahead of him no matter which way he patrolled. It was like the hospital was playing games with him.
Toying with him. And cutting him off too, right? Did you mention his phone?
Yeah, exactly. The isolation ramps up. He tries to call his supervisor. The call just dies halfway through the sentence. His cell phone battery, which was at like 80%, drains instantly. Boom, 0%.
Whoa. So the hospital is actively fighting his tech, blocking communication.
That's how the source presents it. It's not just visual weirdness. It's interfering with energy, with signals, cutting him off.
And it starts getting physical too, moving things.
He finds this file cabinet near the stairs to the east wing, the burned wing. He's sure it was standing upright the night before. Now, it's knocked over.
Okay, maybe vandals finally got in.
Could be. But the drawers are ripped open and the files inside aren't just scattered. They're arranged deliberately in a spiral pattern on the floor.
A spiral. Okay, that's not random vandalism. That's ritualistic or something.
Right. And the source says right at the very center of this spiral of files, he finds something.
What?
A plastic name tag, like the kind hospital staff wear. It reads Nurse Calloway.
Nurse Calloway. Okay. Did it say anything else?
It does. Underneath the name, it says Red Ward Room 6B.
Red Ward. But you said that wasn't on any maps.
Exactly. The source makes it clear. Red Ward didn't exist on any official hospital blueprints or plans Darren had seen. It's another layer of impossibility.
So a mysterious name tag pointing to a non-existent ward and the room from the whisper. This is getting really strange.
It's about to get stranger. Later that night, around 3:12 a.m., something new appears.
Appears, like out of nowhere.
Pretty much. Just past the entrance to the burned-out East Wing, there's suddenly a door where there wasn't one before.
What kind of door?
The source describes it as looking brand new. Clean, shiny metal, like it was just installed, fitting seamlessly into the old, decaying wall.
That's not possible. A brand new door in an abandoned hospital.
And it has a plaque on it. Simple lettering. Ward R.
Ward R, as in Red Ward.
That seems to be the implication. The source says Darren felt this strong pull, like he had to see what was behind it. He was drawn towards it.
Oh boy. He didn't open it, did he?
He did. He stepped inside.
What was Ward R like?
Long, sterile, and completely red. Red walls, red floors. Just like the hallway he saw before, but more solid, more permanent maybe. Dozens of identical doors line this hallway, each with a number chalked onto it.
Chalk numbers, not proper signs.
No, just crude chalk numbers. And way down at the very end of this long red hall, room 6B.
There it is again, of course.
But as he's walking towards it, he notices something else. Something profoundly disturbing.
What now?
The hallway itself, it felt alive. The source says he realized it was breathing. Slow, deep, rhythmic breaths. The walls seemed to be gently rising and falling like the inside of a giant pair of lungs.
The hallway was breathing. Okay, that's where the title comes from. The Breathing Hospital.
Seems like it. The source uses this to really hammer home that the building isn't just haunted, the building is the entity. It's biological somehow.
Unbelievable. So he keeps going towards 6B.
Yeah.
Even with the walls breathing.
He does. He reaches the door at the end of the hall. He reaches out, touches the handle. It swings open on its own before he can even turn it.
Okay, inside room 6B, what did he find?
It was starkly lit, buzzing fluorescent lights overhead, the kind that hums constantly. 5 beds lined up against one wall.
Were they empty?
4 of them were, stripped bare, but the 5th bed, the one furthest down, it wasn't empty.
Who was in it? Please don't say the nurse.
No, it was a girl. Looked maybe 13 years old, lying very still under these old, yellowed sheets.
A kid. What was wrong with her?
The description in the source is graphic. Her mouth was sewn shut with thick, dark thread.
Oh my God. Sewn shut.
Yeah, but her eyes were wide open, and they were red. Not just bloodshot, but like bleeding slightly from the corners, and she was looking right at him, directly at Darren.
Staring at him with bleeding eyes and a sewn mouth.
Did she
do anything?
She whispered.
But her mouth was sewn shut. How?
The source insists. It says she whispered somehow through the sealed lips, and her words were, "He wears their skins."
He wears their skins. What does that even mean? Who is he?
The source doesn't explain, it just leaves that chilling phrase hanging there. Darren obviously tries to get out of there immediately. He turns to run back to the door he came through.
And it's gone, isn't it?
Gone. Just solid wall where the door to the breathing hallway had been. He was trapped in room 6B with the girl.
No way out. Then what?
Then the buzzing fluorescent lights went out, plunged the room into absolute, total darkness.
Oh, come on. Of course they did.
And in that pitch blackness, the source says, something touched him. First his hand. Then something brushed against his face. Then he felt a touch on the back of his neck.
Physical contact in the dark? Nope. No thank you.
And then the voices started. Not just one whisper this time, dozens of them, filling the darkness all around him.
What were they saying?
They were all whispering the same thing. The exact words from his EVP recording from night 4. You shouldn't have looked under the beds.
Whoa, okay. So the warning on the EVP, it was about this moment, about this room. Did he look under the beds?
The source doesn't explicitly say he did, but the voices imply he transgressed some rule related to the beds. Maybe just being in the room was enough. Or maybe seeing the girl counted. It connects back chillingly.
So he's trapped in the dark, being touched, voices whispering that warning. What happened to him? How did he get out?
That's the thing. The source says the next thing he knew, he woke up.
Woke up where? Back in the office?
No, outside. In the hospital parking lot. Lying on the asphalt.
Ghost? Transported outside? How?
The source doesn't explain the mechanism. It just states the aftermath. He woke up in the parking lot, and he was naked.
Naked. His clothes were gone.
Completely gone, and his chest was covered in scratches. Dozens of them. Shallow, but bleeding. Like claw marks.
Claw marks. So whatever touched him in the dark, it left marks.
Seems so. And all his security gear, his flashlight, the recorder, everything was gone. Vanished. And the footage from the security cameras for the entire period wiped clean. Like the hospital just spat him out and erased the evidence.
So the hospital itself physically ejected him, stripped him, marked him, and erased the tapes. That's violation on a whole different level.
It's presented as the hospital actively defending itself or consuming the evidence. But there's one final detail. The most shocking one, maybe.
What could possibly be more shocking?
It comes from the demolition crews. When they arrived the next day to finally start prepping the site, they found something had changed.
Changed how?
The hospital had grown.
Grown? What do you mean grown? Like taller?
No. According to the source, there was an entirely new wing attached to the back of the hospital, made of blood red brick, seamlessly joined to the old structure like it had always been there.
A whole new wing. Built overnight. That's impossible.
Impossible, yeah. But that's what the source claims the crew found. This new wing, it had no doors, no windows, just solid red brick.
A windowless, doorless, brand new red wing fused onto the back of the decaying hospital. What was in it?
No way to know from the outside. But the source ends with this really haunting observation. If you go up to the wall of this new wing, this impossible structure, and you press your ear against the cold brick,
You can hear something.
you can hear sounds from inside. Beds creaking, children crying, And nurses whispering.
Oh my God, so whatever was inside, the girl, the nurses, it's contained in this new part, the part the hospital built.
That seems to be the implication. The source lays out this absolutely terrifying progression, doesn't it? From a simple security job, maybe expecting ghosts, to finding a place that actively manipulates reality, breathes, creates impossible spaces like Ward R and Room 6B, houses these horrific entities, and can physically grow and change its own structure.
Yeah, it completely reframes everything. Those missing patients and nurses from the fire in '97. The source makes you wonder, were they the first victims?
Yeah.
The first building materials, maybe?
It definitely raises that question. What is this entity? Is it feeding on something? Is Ward R where it keeps trophies, skins, like the girl whispered? The source doesn't give easy answers.
You know, it just presents this deeply disturbing account, and it leaves you thinking, if something like this, something that breaks the laws of physics and space, can exist, how do you even begin to understand it?
Exactly. How do you categorize it? How would you even try to fight something that can rewrite its own blueprints overnight and whisper warnings from dead radios? It's definitely something to think about long after you put the source material down.
Now we will move on to the second story.
Okay, let's jump straight into this. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the material you shared these excerpts from. A really unsettling account called Ward 313, a physician's nightmare relocation.
Yeah, it's quite the narrative. It's this personal account from a doctor about a temporary job she took, a hospital assignment that went, well, deeply wrong, steeped in history maybe, but not the good kind.
Right. So our mission here is to unpack this really bizarre story, get past just the surface events, and figure out the core sequence. You know, what actually happened, or what did she experience, this Dr. Nadia El-Fouri.
Exactly. We want to walk you through the specifics she describes, especially those moments where, like, her normal everyday medical reality just seemed to smash into something impossible, to really get a feel for the impact.
So let's set the scene for the material. We've got Dr. Nadia El-Fouri, trauma physician from Chicago, very grounded, scientific, and she takes this 6-month relocation deal, Larchmont General Hospital. Staffing shortages.
And this Larchmont General, the source paints quite a picture. Maine, crumbling old building, ivy all over it, dates back to the 1800s, apparently.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, located up in these fog-slicked hills, you immediately get this kind of gothic vibe. The setting itself feels important.
Absolutely. And you know how old places are? They come with stories. Dr. El-Fouri mentions hearing rumors when she got there. Things like screaming from empty elevators.
And old patient charts just appearing out of nowhere. And these whispers about Ward 313. The ghost ward, the nurses called it?
The ghost ward. But, like, officially it didn't exist.
Seems that way. Staff talked about it, but it wasn't on any official records or anything. And the source points out that Dr. El-Fouri, being this rational doctor, she just dismissed it all at first. Which, you know, makes sense for the character.
Yeah, it really grounds her before everything goes sideways. So she arrives, it's October. The place feels heavy. Dim hallways, those yellowing lights, smells like antiseptic and damp like rain.
Always feels like dusk, even midday is how it's described.
But the first day, totally normal. Minor stuff in the ER, everything orderly. Staff are nice, maybe a bit quiet, reserved, almost like it's trying to lull her into feeling okay.
And then comes the turning point. The account says it happened on her third night, on call, around 2 a.m.
Of course, it's always 2 a.m.
The
witching hour, right?
Pretty much. So she's walking down the lower surgical corridor, a route she knows, but then she sees this stretch of hallway. It's dark, and it wasn't on the map she had.
Huh. Just there, no signs or anything?
Nope. No signs, no warnings, just a door.
The door.
The door. Peeling paint, double doors, and these faded bronze letters. WAR D313.
Okay, so there it is. But the anomaly, like you said, it wasn't supposed to exist, not on the schedule, not in the hospital directory, nothing.
Exactly. That's what's so interesting here, even before she opens it. The location itself is wrong. It's a physical impossibility according to her map, her understanding of the hospital layout.
It's not just a spooky feeling, it's like the building itself is contradicting the plans.
Right. And the source says, you know, despite her better judgment, the door was just slightly open, ajar, and she pushed it. That's the moment everything changes in the narrative.
And stepping through, her account says it wasn't like just another ward. It was like stepping into another hospital, a completely different place.
Yeah, the shift is described as immediate, total. And the description hits all the senses, but in a decaying way. Rusted, broken medical cabinets, stuff spilled everywhere, stained floor tiles, lights flickering, some hanging by wires, and this thick smell, rot, just this overwhelming sense of decay. It screams, this is not Larchmont General anymore.
And the beds. That's where it gets visually terrifying based on the description. Rows of them, some occupied by shapes under sheets, but others?
Others with bones showing. And that phrase, frozen mid-scream.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredibly disturbing. It's not just death, it's like the final second of agony is just stuck there, preserved.
Yeah, it bakes the horror right into the environment. And then the thing that really seals it, her radio crackles. And this distorted voice comes through the static, but it knows her name, Dr. El Khoury. Your shift has begun. It's not just creepy background noise anymore, it's talking to her from inside this nightmare place.
Okay, so naturally she freaks out. The account says she backed up, turned to run, get back through that door.
But the door is gone. Just gone. Replaced by a solid brick wall.
A brick wall where the door just was.
Yep, another massive physical impossibility. A complete break with, well, reality as we know it. Space and time just warped.
So he's pounding on it, desperate, obviously. And that's when the figure shows up behind her.
And the description of this guy in the source material, it's chillingly precise. Hospital gown, bald head, skeletal thin, eyes completely black, bleeding from the nose.
Oh, God.
And he's holding this little kid's plush toy, but it's soaked in something dark. Just this collection of really, really unsettling images.
And it gets worse, right? The details are just, yeah. He smiles, but his teeth are sewn shut.
Yes, sewn shut. And then he points to her white coat, and she looks down and sees it smeared with blood. Her coat.
Oh, wow. So these aren't just visual scares. They're becoming physical, tactile almost. Even in this impossible space.
It's terrifyingly physical. The sewn mouth is like literal silencing. And the blood on her coat, it's like the place is contaminating her, marking her, or maybe predicting something.
And then he tells her to run.
But the source makes a point of saying his mouth didn't move when he whispered, run. The voice isn't coming from where it should.
It just gets weirder and weirder. So she runs. As you would. Down this corridor lit in red light, another jarring visual change.
Past rooms with no numbers on the plaques, doors banging open and shut by themselves, and the whispers.
The whispers, yeah. Described like insects crawling on the walls, calling her name over and over. Doctor, doctor, doctor. Like this living auditory assault.
And that message she sees, scrawled in blood on a glass window in one room, you cannot cure death.
Wow. That feels like the core message of this place, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Directly challenging her whole identity as a doctor.
Absolutely. A direct attack on her purpose, her dedication to healing.
She finds a stairwell. More lovely details. Claw marks on the wall.
Claw marks. And this low, steady thumping sound coming from downstairs.
Okay, definitely go up.
She does. She goes up 2 floors, getting away from that thumping.
And then she finds another door.
Another door, yeah. Described as looking identical to the first one she came through. Ward 313. But this one, it's unlocked. Like a designated exit, maybe? A mirror image of the entrance?
So she bursts through it.
Yeah.
And she's back.
She's back. Suddenly in the ER corridor again. Normal hospital lights, the usual sounds, nurses walking by, a gurney rolling past, like nothing happened.
But the critical thing, the account stresses this. Nobody noticed she was gone.
Nobody.
That's one of the most mind-bending parts you pulled out. She looks at her watch, 2:03 a.m. She found the first door around 2:00. So maybe 2 minutes passed.
2, maybe 3 minutes of real-world time for that entire ordeal, an eternity of horror packed into 120, 180 seconds.
But it wasn't just in her head. The physical proof.
Exactly. The source emphasizes this strongly. The dirt on her coat, the dried blood that was real, tangible, her hands were shaking. She goes to the bathroom, scrubs her hands until they're raw, trying to wash it off. It's the physical world saying, yep, that impossible thing, it left marks.
So she tries to talk about it.
Yeah.
Tries to tell her attending physician the next day.
And gets the classic brush off, polite smile, change the subject, like, let's not talk about the crazy things, doctor.
Institutional denial.
But then she mentions Ward 313 to a nurse. And the reaction is totally different.
Oh yeah, night and day. The nurse drops her tray, goes pale, and basically confirms the whole backstory. The ward was real. Condemned in 1979. Burned down.
And the chilling part.
The patients never left.
That connects Nadia's impossible experience directly to this known, buried history of the hospital.
And the haunting doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
It follows her out into her regular work. Her computer gets corrupted that night.
Wiped clean, patient files gone, replaced by hundreds of empty charts.
Empty except for one thing.
One thing on every single chart. Name. Nadia El-Hiri. Room 313B. Status. Admitted.
Oh my God. That is terrifying. The nightmare is literally writing her into its records, making her a patient.
It's incredibly personal and invasive, and after that, the screaming she heard inside, it starts again, but now it's outside, every night.
Yeah.
In the walls of the real hospital, in the vents. For the rest of the time she's there, a constant reminder.
Just keeps escalating, more manifestations, doors appearing where they shouldn't be.
And the detail about her ID badge, that's profoundly disturbing. Waking up in the on-call room, finding her hospital ID, but the photo isn't her.
It's her, but like the figure she saw.
It's her face, but with the black eyes and the mouth stitched shut like the figure from the ward. It's not just messing with the environment anymore. It's altering her identity, her official marker within the hospital.
Okay, well, it is absolutely no surprise then that she left early, 2 months before her contract was supposed to end.
Wouldn't you? And the account is clear. She never went back to medicine.
The whole experience just broke that part of her life, ended her career.
Seems so. The trauma was that profound.
And the ending. The source material leaves it so open, so haunting. Her dreams are still filled with it. The flickering lights that whisper.
Dr. El-Khoury, your shift never ended. Just hangs there.
So, reflecting on this account, the power really is in that collision, isn't it? The totally impossible subjective horror inside Ward 313, the shifting space, the awful figures, the walls talking.
Right, but then it's backed up, it's validated by objective things leaking back into her reality, the actual dirt and blood on her coat, that tiny time window, the nurse confirming the history, the computer files changing to list her name, the ID badge physically altering.
It really forces you, the listener, to grapple with that. What happens when the undeniable physical world confirms something that absolutely should not be real, something that feels like it belongs purely in a nightmare or, a severe hallucination?
Yeah. This deep dive into Dr. El-Khoury's story really leaves you wondering about trauma, about places holding on to something, history, energy, whatever you want to call it, and how fragile our perception of reality might actually be.
Especially when the impossible seems determined to leave physical proof. What does that even mean when a nightmare follows you out and the world itself seems to agree that, yeah, it happened? Makes you think.